So with Spurs finally stumping up the 100 million to take Sandro Tonali from Newcastle and Anthony Gordon's £80 million sale to Barcelona this summer, there can be no question marks around Newcastle having the war chest to go out and do a rebuild this summer. But more importantly, what this video is about, the Newcastle having the money to do it, is do they know how to spend it correctly? And that's the topic we're going to get into today and have a look at the agreed deal for Traore from Hoffenheim. But before we get into anything, I just want to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you out there who subscribed. We've broken our first milestone of 1,000 subscribers here at Two for Joy. I couldn't be happier. Each and every one of you that puts a like, puts a comment, gives a sub, has pushed this channel further and further. And at this point, hopefully, this is just the start of something special in this community. But without further ado, more pressing issues, let's get into the transfer window. So this is a really interesting topic to get into, and I'm hoping more YouTube channels and more Newcastle fan channels will start to discuss this because it's vitally important. Newcastle have brought in or banked £180 million through player sales this summer, and suddenly everyone's excited that we've got loads of money. We can go and sign 6 or 7 players. This is going to be brilliant for the club. But the big question is, spending the money, is that the hard part? Because Newcastle have spent big before and realistically haven't signed well. And this window is key to where Newcastle will head. And I actually think Newcastle have a huge opportunity at the moment with the transfer funds that we brought in. We could completely hit reset on this squad and bring in 6 or 7 really young, high prospect potential players that could revolutionise Newcastle as a football team. A younger squad, hungry players, more competition, more depth, and put us back into that field of having ambition, playing fearless football. Take us back 2 years. But the biggest mistake Newcastle can have at the moment, and this is where I feel really strongly about this, it wasn't selling Alexander Isak. It wasn't selling Anthony Gordon. It's not selling Sandro Tonali. It's keeping Bruno. And I feel really strongly on this topic. And I wouldn't blame Bruno for wanting to leave. But really, Newcastle need to pull out every stop to keep this guy at the club. Because we're in a position where it will be really fragile if we see our captain follow suit with the rest of our stars. He's not just a footballer. He's everything to this football club and this fan base. And as much as I can understand him wanting to leave, Newcastle need to be firm on this stance that if you let him go, you let the ambition go from this football club. And we will go backwards, and we will be in a position where I feel we could be very close to relegation candidates for next season. But as we're talking about the rebuild and how we're set to scout and litter the media with players that we're linked to, Bazuma Traore from Hoffenheim, the deal looks close, and I will say close, it's not done. 50 million euros, a medical expected this week. So clearly Newcastle aren't waiting around after the sale of Sandro Tonali. And the rebuild looks to be starting. But every signing matters. And my big concern with this topic, and I really hope this is where channels start to focus their attention, is that we don't sell technicians and buy athletes. We don't want to carry on down this path of Eddie Howe players where we stick to trusting the athletes and not trusting the technicians. Because realistically, the reason this football club has declined is through selling technician footballers. Alexander Isak, as a striker, was a technician. While he played for Newcastle, the way he operated, his ability put him far surpassed other strikers, and we were set up to use him like that. This season, we have not had that. We have not had that setup. We have not had that style. We have not played a technical style of football. We have leaned far too heavily on the athletes, and it is a balance. But every signing matters at the moment. And really, this is where I think Newcastle need to focus their recruitment philosophy. And the recruitment philosophy is a big one. So stop chasing Premier League proven players. Stop paying inflated fees because somebody's already played in this league. And stop paying overinflated wages to players like Johan Wissa, who have nothing to prove. He's scored 20 goals in the Premier League before. He's been at a middle-of-the-road club. He's moved to a middle-of-the-road club that no longer has Champions League football. He's going through the motions on double the money he was on at Brentford, and we've paid through the nose for it. Newcastle need to go and buy with ambition. Buy kids with potential. Buy kids with hunger. Go and buy players that see Newcastle as a stepping stone. Go and buy players that see the Premier League as the elite stage and want to play for the elite clubs, want to go to your Man City, your Barcelona, your Liverpool, your Arsenal, your Real Madrid, your Bayern Munich. We want players to come in who have the ambition but aren't at the level. And we want to develop those players and sell them for these overinflated, exploited prices like we have done with Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali. That is what will keep this club moving. That is what will stop us from standing still in the transfer market and will allow Newcastle to become stronger season on season. And the previous sales prove the model. Anthony Gordon didn't come in as a finished product. Sandro Tonali didn't come in as a finished product. Alexander Isak didn't come in as a finished product. Even Yakuba Minteh for £5 million and sold for 40. Now, while I'd have loved us to have kept Yakuba Minteh, this kid can play and we paid virtually nothing for him. And we sold him for way over what we paid for him one season later. This is the model that Newcastle need to keep following. And this is kind of where Newcastle need to take a stop. Take stock of what's happening at the moment. Be ruthless in the transfer market like they have been to Tottenham. And say, if you want our players, you will pay for our players. As long as it's not Bruno Guimaraes. So, the next window, or this window, could define Newcastle over the next few seasons. And the question I want to ask you is, do you feel positive? Do you feel there's some promise going into this window? Or do you feel terrified that Newcastle will fuck it up again? Like I say, it's going to be a gamble. It's going to be a real gamble as to whether Ross Wilson heads up the transfer policy, brings in age-appropriate players with high potential, or whether we stick to the philosophy of Eddie Howe and we bring in the athletes rather than technicians and head back down the same path we have done for the last 2 seasons. Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, get involved, and thank you to everybody for getting involved, subbing and helping me achieve my first milestone of 1,000 subscribers and bring this community on to something different and take us one step further. Otherwise, guys, there'll be breaking news, some bullshit, some truth over the next couple of days with 20 or 30 players being linked to the football club. Now people know we've got money. All I'll say is don't believe Romano. Check it for yourself, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.